Well, guys and girls, there are new leaked images of the supposed NX controller, and this time they are far more convincing and far more clear. But is this really the future that Nintendo is building? I'm Ghost Robo, and I think I have the answer. So as you see on your screen here, we've got some very crisp, very clear, very lifelike, and very darn real looking images of what is supposedly the NX, Nintendo's next console controller. This system is going to be releasing in 2016. It most likely merges handheld and console in some fashion, and based on recent rumors, has signed on some pretty big games. Reliable sources have stated that Activision is on board with Destiny 2 and Call of Duty 2016 on NX. That would be a huge gain for Nintendo, a huge grab, and it lines up with some of the other rumors that say EA is on board in a big way, and hopefully other third parties as well. If Nintendo can lock up those main multi-platform games, those big AAA, mature-rated shooters, the ones that attract millions of sales and grab everybody's gift cards and Christmas money, they will be in a good spot. But you look at these controllers and you say, how the heck would you play Destiny 2? How the heck would you play Call of Duty on something that has touchscreen buttons and nipple nubs for its control sticks? The way I think of it is like this. Look at the Wii. Okay, that system made weird modifications to how we played and experienced video games. Motion controls, split controllers, a Wiimote that had basically an NES button layout, but they still had an analog stick on the nunchuck. Now we go to the Wii U. They've made even stranger innovations. Now they've got this touchscreen in the center of the controller. There's only one gamepad per console. You can't play with two. You have to use Wiimotes or a Pro controller, but the Wii U gamepad still has an analog stick. So, even though they didn't end up having a lot of third-party support, you still could have put third-party games on those systems. They would have worked, and they did initially. You saw on the Wii U stuff like Zombie U coming out at the beginning, and games like that. Black Ops 2 was on the Wii U at the beginning, and then it faded out fast, but they still were totally possible. Stuff like Destiny 2 and stuff like Battlefield 5 and stuff like Battlefront 2 will not play right and well on a controller that has no buttons, no ergonomic factor, and nubs for sticks. So, here's what I think the deal is. I think indeed the NX is coming in 2016. I think it indeed is a two-part thing with a handheld and a console. I don't know if they'll release simultaneously or one shortly after the other, but I think what we're seeing here is Nintendo's next handheld. I think this is the 3DS successor. More and more, I'm believing that these images are real based on a lot of the feedback that has been coming out on Twitter. Andy McNamara, the editor-in-chief for Game Informer, one of the biggest and only remaining video game publications out there, said this is in line with what he's heard in speculation that the controller will have not very many face buttons. And that's been a rumor for quite a while and a thought about Nintendo's next project. You saw the patent from December of 2015 showing an ovular controller with sticks and no face buttons. But I think this is their counter, their answer to iPads, iPhones, mobile gaming kids today. You go to a basketball game, you go to a restaurant, you go to the park, you see kids playing iPads and iPhones. You see them borrowing their parents' Android. You see them using touchscreen interfaces to interact with websites and games and apps. I think Nintendo wants a piece of that market. You see that they're bringing their mobile initiative forward with Dina and with the games they plan on releasing, starting with Miitomo and eventually moving forward with more of their mainstream characters. I think Nintendo is going to go with a touchscreen handheld, and the main console, NX, will have a regular controller. I think that is the way to go, and I think it would be the most in line with what Nintendo has done in the past and what they've done in the future. If you look at it, the touchscreen started out on the DS, and 3D started out on the 3DS. In theory, they were a little bit more reserved with their Wii U home console. It does have the touchscreen in the middle of the controller, which is a big, crazy, creative, possibly mistake-ridden step for home consoles, but it's less crazy when you consider their handheld. The 3DS already had touchscreen. The 3DS had 3D. It has cameras. It has all that stuff. So what if they do a handheld that is innovative and a controller for the console that is more mainstream. So this handheld would in some way sync up with the NX home console. Maybe you can play some of the games. Maybe you can maybe it's the reverse of what we thought. Before we thought maybe you could take the home console games from NX and download them to the handheld on the go. But what if instead it is the opposite? The NX handheld has a certain lineup of games that can be projected onto a big screen TV via an NX console connection. So you've got this touch controller, and similar to Amazon Fire or Apple TV, you can play those games on the big screen as well as on the go. So it has that iPhone, Apple TV connectivity, but in a Nintendo form. So you've got New Super Mario Bros. 3 on the NX handheld, and now you can beam that up to the NX home console when you're at home. But if you're going to play Destiny 2 and you're going to play Call of Duty 2016, you're going to play The Legend of Zelda, you need to be at home, you need to be with the main controller, and right now they don't have the streaming online infrastructure or the downloadable technology to bring those games in their full fortitude and fashion to the handheld. So I think now, part of me still thinks this is fake. It's so in line with that pen, almost identical. It looks like it could be just someone building some crazy mock-up, but it's so well done, and ninjas on the internet and on NeoGAF and Twitter have done really extensive searching of this imagery, and maybe it's crazy, maybe it's overthinking it, but the keyboard in these images has a Swedish layout, and the reflection in the controller touchscreen is a tree that looks awfully similar to Massive Entertainment's headquarters in Sweden, where they would, in theory, have dev kits for these devices. Now, that's just speculation. It's a bit of a kooky speculation, but it could be. So, what if this is the handheld? And that would be totally okay. We're so used to handhelds having touch interfaces and having virtual buttons. If anyone could do it well, it would be Nintendo. They're really great at gameplay and mechanics and hands-on experiences. So if they were going to be the ones to really give us a good virtual controller, then why not? They could make Mario, and they could make side scrollers, and they could make Mario Kart and Zelda and all sorts of things on this handheld and have it be like a gamer's version of an iPhone or an iPad, a cheaper alternative for parents to buy instead of having to support their kids with a full-on Apple product or a full-on, plan-ridden phone. Instead of buying them something from Verizon or Sprint or AT&T, just get them the NX handheld and they're good to go. They could even port a lot of the same games from the app stores over to this NX handheld in an eShop form. So you could get a lot of cheap games, you'd have a built-in library, and you'd be ready to go competing directly with what is captivating young people's attention today. Remember that the handheld market for Nintendo has always been their strong suit. It's one that has seen great sales but declining sales in recent years, and it's one that is prominent more so in Asia than it is in America. And those kind of short burst games that fall in line with quick breaks at school or work or transportation and commutes, this would be that. And then, the nubs make more sense. You would be okay probably with nubs on a handheld, even though it's not ideal. If you look at what they did with the new 3DS, they're not very far along on handheld analog technology, but it would be more in line with sort of some of the PSP initial Vita stuff, right? And it almost does look like an ovular Vita. I think we have a bad representation of the size of this thing. My initial thought was, wow, my hands are going to cover most of the screen real estate, but I think this thing is bigger than it looks. I think when I've seen mock-ups with hands on it, there's much more space. So my current go-to conspiracy theory is that, yes, this is real, but it's the handheld. That is option one. Option two is it's totally fake and people are just screwing with us, the fact that we're on this, hype train right now, and we'll see whatever they have at E3. I mean, that is inevitable. It's coming at E3. There was a report yesterday that Nintendo has ceased production or will be ceasing production of NX of Wii U, later in 2016. They came out and said, no, that's not true. But of course they'd say, no, that's not true until they were ready to reveal the NX. I mean, inevitably the NX will come out, Wii U will stop production soon, whether that's by the end of the calendar year or the fiscal year or early 2017 or mid 2017. That's just the natural progression of things. But I do not think Nintendo is weird enough to make a nub-based touchscreen controller their home console handheld or their home console, device. I think they're too good for that, and I think if you look at the history of the N64, the GameCube, the Wii and the Wii U, even though those controllers and those consoles had some quirky components and gimmicks to them, they never veered away from at least somewhat of a traditional button infrastructure. And it would make sense that the handheld has been in development longer than the home console, based on the 3DS release date and based on the new 3DS as a stopgap, whereas the Wii U was hopefully going to, gain momentum or gain steam, and it never did. People have heard speculation, like Andy McNamara. Maybe they heard speculation on the handheld, and they're just sort of merging all of this together, and it's becoming this twister of rumors and hype and speculation, because there are really two products that were waiting to be announced and released and revealed: the handheld and the console. Maybe it is instead a reverse of what I initially thought and what people initially thought. Instead of downloading the games from the console down to the handheld, you upload them from the handheld to the console. That would be really great for me. I mean, that's ideal for me. I don't have a commute. I don't ride public transportation, so I would love to be able to buy New Super Mario Bros. 3 on 3DS, Fire Emblem, whatever on this handheld, and play it on my big screen when I'm at home. Gosh, it would make recording a heck of a lot easier, and it would be great to see those games blown up. And if the visual fidelity and resolution of this handheld is much greater than the 3DS and even greater than the Vita, which it should be based on release dates, then it'll look good on a big screen. It won't be some stretched pixel, ugly, ho-hum way to play. It would be a fantastic way to play, and you're basically doubling the library of the home console by allowing that connectivity. And like I mentioned, you already have a huge library on the handheld if you're going to integrate more of the mobile type games and those developers and app store releases already on the NX. I think they could really cater to a thriving and growing, emerging marketplace by doing that. And it may be a smart ploy and plan to wrap people into the Nintendo fold early and often by giving them something that is very in line and comparable to what they see their older brothers, their friends, their parents using, with a cheaper price tag, no phone plan, no data or whatnot, and still get great games and probably better games than either the iPhone or an Android device can offer. So let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Where do you think this is going at this point? We've got better images, more images. Is it totally fake? Are you believing my thought that this is the handheld, not the console? Do you think it is the console and Nintendo has completely gone off the deep end? Let me know in the comments below. I think key pieces of information to remember are the fact that they are releasing a handheld and a console, that they need a successor to the 3DS, that they are very intrigued by Apple and mobile game design, and that there are plenty of rumors suggesting that EA and Activision are on board with their big titles that would not work on a controller with two nub sticks and no face buttons. Sure, it would work in theory, but not in a way that would attract gamers and consumers. People, developers, publishers didn't take issue with the gamepad. They took issues with the sales of the Wii U. It's okay to have innovation as long as it's successful, but a controller for a home console competing against the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One that does not have face buttons and has nipple nubs for control sticks will not work. As a handheld, golden. It strikes the market. It carves out its own space, and it's fine as a portable device with cheaper games, a younger audience, and a more casual consumer. I think this is the way it's going. I cannot wait to see more. E3 is very soon, like 70-some days away, and we will get to see and play the actual product. But for now, all we have is these leaks to go off of. More and more, I'm beginning to believe that they're real. But I think it's for the handheld. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope you're having a great day. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Hit that thumbs up button if you enjoyed the NX coverage. And until next time, everybody, I love you. Drink some hot chocolate. We will see you all later.